Hello. In this video, I speak directly about how to treat oxidative stress. My name is Lisa Marie Korst. I'm a former physician. I'm currently a medical researcher. But most of all, I'm a patient who's just wanted to get better, and I hope I can help you do the same. Now, I have to go through a number of disclaimers. Please bear with me, but it's important that you understand where I'm coming from. I'm not a nutritionist nor a biochemist. There are many people who understand the science in a much more detailed level than I do. My strength is in understanding how to treat oxidative stress. This channel and this video specifically, they're for general informational purposes only. The channel is entirely unsponsored and has no affiliate links. It is not a substitute for a medical exam, diagnosis, treatment, or recommendation. It does not create a doctor-patient relationship, and you should not make any changes in your health regimen before first consulting a licensed healthcare professional. Only your healthcare provider can assist you with weighing the potential risk of this approach with the known risk of your individual conditions. So the information provided is intended to help you recognize the symptoms of oxidative stress and potential avenues for treatment. Please watch the introductory video first for the background and rationale for this approach. It's important that you understand so I don't repeat it here. Why are some of us more susceptible to oxidative stress? Now, many people blame our lifestyles and our environment. These external sources or stressors, thinking that we are continuing to expose ourselves to something that is provoking this response, this oxidative stress. And we continue to keep looking even long after the stressor is gone. Some people indeed may have an external source, but my premise is that our genetic variation is what's responsible for our symptoms. The stressors may be long gone, but the stressor effect on nitric oxide synthase is still with us. With our uncoupled nitric oxide synthase, we continue to produce too many free radicals to mop up, and we stay and can't get out of this autotoxic loop. Now, the treatment principle that I'm using is found in the new science of nutrigenomics, where we eat and supplement to get around faulty genetic code. So when they mapped the genome 20 years ago, they didn't just do this to determine, what is the gene for blue eyes or brown. Indeed, we are inheriting code for all of the proteins involved in the chemistry of our bodies. And my code may be slightly different from yours, though being human, we make the same things. But for example, my nitric oxide synthase, it may not make as much nitric oxide and may not be as fast as others. And it may more easily uncouple. I've worked with people who've had oxidative stress symptoms who have shared their DNA with me, and we see the same combinations of common variants, not zebras, unusual variants, but common variants that are associated with oxidative stress. And specifically what we're seeing variants in this nitric oxide synthase, the enzyme that produces nitric oxide, and variants in the cofactors, the transporters for the cofactors, for example, in methylation and BH4, and in the production of natural antioxidants such as superoxide dismutase or glutathione. These are common variants, and they're producing too many free radicals and not able to mop them up. Now, looking at the genetics of an individual is a new approach for many doctors, and this genetic basis of disease is overwhelming. I'll give you an example regarding my BH4 production. I saw a pediatric geneticist who published an article pretty much about the variant that I have in BH4 and stating that if you have this variant, you're going to have oxidative stress. But the exact variant that I had was not recognized by the profession as being a pathologic variant. In fact, it was rarely reported. So it was not recognized. I couldn't get a diagnosis And I couldn't get a treatment. There is a treatment. It's called Kuvan, Kuvan, but it's completely unavailable to me. And my point here is that the science is moving much faster than the recognition of these disorders and possible treatments. And our doctors can't possibly keep up or be expected to know anything about our genetic variation. And we're working in a very unconventional space. The good news is that this genetic picture, what I'm talking about is too many free radicals and not enough antioxidants. It's very common, and we don't have to fix the exact variant, just the pathway. And so by working with this premise that the nitric oxide synthase is responsible, I and a group of others have managed to feel better. We go back to these symptoms that were identified in the long COVID trial, the NIH RECOVER trial. And these are the most prevalent symptoms. And they all are related to nitric oxide production very directly. And I'll show you how. Unexplained inflammatory symptoms and pain. This is directly a result of the free radicals stimulating the mast cells. Fatigue, post-exertional malaise, and brain fog. This is directly the result of the free radicals, the toxicity of the free radicals on the mitochondria. Migraines, tight throat, chest, shortness of breath, cold hands and feet. This is directly a result of decreased production of nitric oxide, allowing smooth muscle to spasm. These last two, depression and other mood disorders, dysautonomia and unexplained tachycardia, these are methylation disorders. As you know now, methylation, methylfolate, is a cofactor of nitric oxide synthase. And so it's really important that you have it. When you're depleted, you're going to be depleted in the production of nitric oxide, leading to all of these things. So this is what I'm talking about. These are symptoms of oxidative stress. When you're thinking about, do I have oxidative stress? It's important first to kind of take an inventory of your symptoms. And this is what I call like a symptom cascade. And it goes from those symptoms that I just outlined in the RECOVER trial of chronic oxidative stress. They're stimulating the mast cells. This causes chronic inflammation and mitochondrial dysfunction. This then leads to chronic disease in the organ level inflammation, whether it's diabetes, hypertension, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. This is chronic disease. These all have names. So if you find yourself down here with chronic diseases that are identified, that have names, then you already know that you are in this autotoxic loop and that you have chronic oxidative stress. You're in this vicious cycle where free radicals cause inflammation and it causes more free radicals. That's what chronic disease is. Go back to the Latin, rubor, dolor, calor. This for inflammation. These conditions all have names. For me, it was the bowel, allergic colitis, the bladder, interstitial cystitis, the uterus, adenomyosis, while other people have different constellations of symptoms, even in the same family. But if we're diagnosed with these chronic disease, we need to get all the diagnoses and treatments that we can from the medical system and do our damage control. If you're back up here are lucky enough to be diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome, chronic fatigue, or long COVID, these are now billable codes, and they now have names. So that means they now have names, and doctors can get paid for seeing you with these conditions. And just as an aside here, I say to get biopsies, help the medical system recognize what is going on with you in some kind of objective fashion. So for example, for allergic colitis, more than 10 mast cells per high power field in the microscope is diagnostic for allergic colitis. So this will always help you. Now, if your symptoms are really back up here, like in these RECOVER trial symptoms, brain fog, fatigue, gut spasm, shortness of breath, then we're dealing here in a very unconventional space that's largely unsupported. These are symptoms. They don't have names. But symptom awareness can help make it clear where your doctors can help and where they can't. How do I know that I have oxidative stress? Is there some kind of objective evidence that I can get? Now, there's no diagnosis for it, but there are tests that can help you understand and confirm what we think is going on and point to how to manage your symptoms. The first thing I always say is that genetic. Unfortunately, it may not help you unless you really want to take a deep dive. It helped me tremendously because it was able to help me connect the dots as to what was going on. For many people, it may not necessarily be helpful. There are common variants in multiple systems: nitric oxide synthase, in the production of BH4, tetrahydrobiopterin, in one carbon metabolism, the two main ones being MTHFR and PEMT. Another one, PNMT, is also found very frequently. This associated with tachycardia, arrhythmias, and antioxidants, superoxide dismutase or glutathione. So there's a number of variants, common variants in multiple systems. You can upload data from what a lot of people do. They upload data from 23andMe or Ancestry. You can get the raw data file. And there are a lot of programs that will then upload those data and help you understand whether you have some of these specific variants. Genetic Genie is free. I like the strategy from Ben Lynch because he gives a lot of information about it. This is one way that people go. In terms of labs, there are a lot of routine labs. Make sure that you get all your normal thyroid, liver, kidney functions. Just know about your metabolism. And what is your excretion of supplements going to look like? Because you're going to be taking some supplements if you're going to do this. Two of the kind of helpful labs that most doctors will do on a routine blood draw are vitamin B12 and what's called homocysteine. When you have a methylation defect in MTHFR, you typically have a low B12 and a high homocysteine. So you want your B12 above 500 and your homocysteine 7 to 9. When I was first tested, I think this was 275 and this was like 45. So what I'm talking about here is, you've got to be careful with the interpretation because they have very, very wide ranges of what they say is normal. But this is about where you want to see it. A more in-depth test is something called the Nutraval or Metabolomics Plus. These are done through Genova Diagnostics and give you a lot more details about exactly what's going on. So this is an example of one of my tests. We're talking here, multiple things indicating level of oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, omega and other lipid balance, toxins, and methylation. So this is what it looks like. There are many, many elements to this test. These are both offered by the same company. Let me tell you the difference. Nutraval is done with a phlebotomy, so a blood draw. Metabolomics Plus is for cash customers at home. You get the blood, the elements that need to be measured in the blood through a stick to your finger, a blood spot. I'm on straight Medicare, and my straight Medicare will cover the Nutraval test. Otherwise, it's $500, which is equivalent to what this one costs. If you can get the phlebotomy, if you can find a lab that will do it, and your insurance company will cover this, this is really the way to go. Otherwise, this is quick and easy to do. They will send you the kit in the mail. You also have to have a doctor approve this Nutraval test, whereas they will find a doctor to approve the Metabolomics Plus for you. This is highly recommended. It helps you understand your vitamin levels, your lipid levels, mineral levels, your acid levels. It's very, very good. Going this route is based in what I would have to call not biohacking, but really diagnosis by treatment. It's not for the faint of heart. It basically means something pretty simple. If supplement X mops up free radicals and it makes you feel better, then you likely have a free radical problem. It's working with the supplements to help you understand what you need and what the doses are that you need. And so the idea here is to supplement with support for nitric oxide synthase and its cofactors and assist with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory support as well. Many people tell me this is too complicated, and it is for a lot of people. But I know that there are many of you who can do it successfully. The science is out there. I'm not arguing with the science. I'm not inventing any science. I want to share our experience with treatment in the hope that some of you can do it. Doctors tell me, we know what you're talking about, Lisa, but we don't know how to treat it. It's very difficult for doctors to treat this in a conventional practice. And you will see why. I've taken information from a lot of people. Please go look them up and judge for yourselves about what they have found and how they practice. But in addition, I've reviewed literally thousands of articles in the medical literature, and this information has provided the framework and allowed us to experience the treatment in our own bodies. This is only a first step, but I thought it was very important to get out there because it may be vital to anyone who is suffering. So I want to first, before I get into the exact treatment, I want to first describe some basic principles about treating oxidative stress and how it's different than treating with drugs. We're all used to taking pills that do certain things, but we're playing a different ballgame here. I'm working from the premise that our genetic variants have led to nutrient deficiencies. We are missing fundamental building blocks, vitamins, methyl groups, BH4, and this leads to poor function of major biochemical pathways, some of which may have been dormant for years. Your body has workarounds to provide you with what you need. So you want to replace those nutrients that are depleted. Now, this is not simple. We don't know exactly what we need, and we don't know how much we need. And on top of that, it's always changing. So in contrast, when you take a drug, you're not, the drug is not a fundamental thing. You're not trying to replace something in the body. Rather, the drugs, like you think about an antibiotic, an antihistamine, an antihypertensive, these are generally extra additives to your body, and they're designed to interrupt or modify normal pathways in a specific, consistent way. So, for example, they're effective at a certain dose for a certain amount of time, like an antihistamine blocks histamine receptors for 4 hours. I mean, that's how a drug works. But what we're trying to do is to replace nutrients so that our bodies function normally. Trying to regain our normal function. So this requires a lot of precautions when you're trying to treat these nutrient deficiencies. And this is nothing, we don't have guidance that is normally available for drugs. In this case, you usually don't know how much you need, and your body's reaction is all you have to go on. So the first thing that is really critical as you try to think about the supplements or vitamins or anything that you're going to be taking here is that the first few doses are tiny. And I mean tiny, always for safety. You don't take your first dose to see if the supplement is working. Rather, you take the first dose to make sure you don't have a reaction, or if you do have a reaction, what is it? And when I say tiny, I may mean, open up a capsule. Put it in a dish, take the smallest amount of that, put that in a glass of water and take a teaspoon of the water. I mean, there are many, many ways to get the tiny start, depending on what your symptoms are, because you may provoke symptoms as you try to figure out the doses that you need. So don't assume that because you are taking vitamins or something natural, that it's going to be harmless. You may be resurrecting these old pathways that have been shut down for a long time. You may run into new blocks. So you want to be very, very careful. Another point that I need to make is that most supplements do not last long. So I'm going to give you some target doses, for what you need in a day. But you want to split that target dose up every few hours usually, and that's called divided doses. So you take the target, you take divided doses of that target throughout the day because within a few hours, most of these are going to be metabolized. Another thing that's important is I'm giving you a very specific order here in terms of how to approach this. The nitric oxide synthase enzyme is very, very tricky. And it has all those cofactors. And you need to build up the easiest cofactors first so that, as you begin to stabilize it, then you can continue to add the more cofactors or the nitrates in food later. But I'm giving them to you in a specified order, and it's important that you work on them one at a time to reach the target. One thing I want to talk about here is it's important as you understand how to think about replacing what you're missing is something called the depletion. I call it a depletion state. And what I mean by that is your nutrients are used up and your symptoms are strong. Your symptoms come on. That usually means your nitric oxide enzyme is uncoupled. You may originally get into this state because of physical or mental stressors or an infection, for example. You put yourself in that cell danger response. So that's, and so you start off in this depletion state, but you may also be treating yourself and starting off with some of these supplements and replacing what you need and find you get back into it very easily. So this is why it's important to think about what is this depletion state. So taking one supplement or drug may use up your nutrients. So for example, you may have started with methylation. You may be providing a lot of methyls, and then you take something like lipoic acid that uses up methyls. Even though it's trying to help you as an antioxidant, it's using up methyls to do that. So that's what I'm calling. So those drugs I'm calling like they can put you in a depletion state, and I'll try to call out what those drugs are, what those supplements or drugs are. Another thing that puts you in this depletion state can just be simply exercise. Exercise uses up nitric oxide and its cofactors. And if you're planning exercise or even breakfast, you need to get your treatment down 30 to 45 minutes prior. This depletion state is often really apparent when you first get up. You've been fasting overnight, no supplements, and when you get up in the morning, you will usually notice symptoms. I can see that I'm depleted because I have optical migraines. So what happens to me is when I get up in the morning, the rotors start going and the flashing lights, and these will all go away as soon as I get my supplements down. But a lot of symptoms will come on in the morning, overnight. That's when a lot of people are their worst. Now, if you get yourself back into this depleted state after you've already started trying to supplement, don't just cut off everything. A lot of times the doctors will say, oh, no, go back and cut out everything. I ask you to consider walking it back. Certainly, that's why you do one thing at a time. You do one thing at a time so that you can just slowly back off. If one thing causes symptoms, then you know it's causing symptoms and you can stop that one or walk that one back. But then you've got whatever else you've already built up to, you can keep going if you've been able to be stable on that so far. So try not to give up everything or eliminate a new medicine or supplement altogether if you can help it, because you just have to then go back to square one and start over. And work with your labs to help guide you. And they should help you boost your confidence. I'm a very analytical person. I keep a lot of records because you will come back to that same state again and want to know what you did that got you out of it. So let's start with the principal avenues of treatment. First, we're talking about nitric oxide synthase support. And these are the pieces of it, right? Methylation, B2, B6, vitamin C. I call it my little cocktail. BH4, glutathione and other antioxidants. And finally, nitrates in food. There's also inflammation prevention and mitochondrial support. So these are the legs of the stool: nitric oxide support, inflammation prevention, and mitochondrial support. Methylation is the first part of nitric oxide synthase report, and it's the easiest way to get started. Again, to remind you, methylation is fundamental to biochemical reactions in the body. And there are two principal genetic bottlenecks to this that occur, very common. MTHFR, methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase, it's an enzyme that has a variant that doesn't work well. And PEMT or PEMT, phosphatidylethanolamine and methyltransferase. These two are very common. I have both. A lot of people I see have both. MTHFR, but we'll start here. The first thing to do to kind of think about how are you going to work with your MTHFR. You want to first remove all folic acid from the diet. In the 90s, they put folic acid in bread, pasta, milk, everything. And it was originally to prevent spina bifida. It was a mandate, and it actually blocks the folate receptors. The other thing I want to mention is that, yeah, you can actually get an MTHFR test from your doctor very directly. You can ask directly for that if you don't want to do the 23andMe. A lot of doctors will just do that for you in a single blood test. But otherwise, you can also look at the B12 and the homocysteine, as I mentioned earlier. But most people that have trouble with nitric oxide synthase and this oxidative stress pattern have some problem with methylation. It's important to make sure that you have enough B12 on board before you start taking methylfolate. The B12 that you want is either methylcobalamin or hydroxyadenosyl-cobalamin. Do not want cyanocobalamin, which is what you're usually going to be finding at your corner drugstore because it's cheap. You want it already methylated. Now, it may take up to 3 weeks of B12 alone before you want to begin starting methylfolate. So getting your body back used to it, especially if you already know that you're really depleted in B12. The target dose is 2,000 micrograms per day, well, that's 2 milligrams, absorbed in the mouth as a lozenge. There's no need for more than that. There's no need to take it more than once a day. We start out, either they have drops. I started out with drops in the very beginning, and maybe a quarter or a quarter of a lozenge of B12. Do not swallow it. You can try that each morning and see if it seems okay. I like to get that B12 from Seeking Health. Now, the side effect of B12 and of most B vitamins is what is called a racing brain. Okay, now a racing brain, I call it kind of like a head rev. It's just that, it's like almost like when you have insomnia and your brain just keeps going in circles. If you immediately feel this, you're taking too much. Your body's having a hard time absorbing it. So just be aware and back off. It's okay to start methylfolate if you can take 1,000 to 2,000 micrograms of B12 per day. You start with 1 milligram. Again, these are lozenges. Look for a methylfolate that is a 1 milligram lozenge and cut it in quarters. Try 1 quarter dissolved under the tongue. Wait 15 minutes. And if that's okay, try another quarter. And you can repeat until you can take up to 1 milligram at a time. Don't take it close to bedtime. If you get a racing brain, you may not be able to sleep when you're first starting. So take it during the day when you can pay attention. Spit it out. If you're getting a racing brain, it should resolve within the hour. Niacin can be used as an antidote to use up methyls. The initial target is 1 milligram twice a day, and you can certainly use it more frequently. Pay particular attention to your mood, anxiety, sadness, arrhythmias, throat, gut spasms, and even your energy levels. The effects do not last more than a few hours, so figure out how long it is working for you. You may increase the dose or take more frequently to cover throughout the day. So if you're having difficulty tolerating methylfolate, and you're finding you're getting that racing brain quite a bit, even on these very, very low doses, you may need glycine. Glycine is an amino acid. It's kind of like, I'm cutting corners with this, but it's kind of like a bank. It will bind on to the methylfolate and store it. If you don't have enough glycine, too much may circulate and give you a racing brain. So you can get your glycine either as a direct supplement. I like to get it through bone broth. The back door for methylation support is something called phosphatidylcholine. So, and particularly if people are having trouble with methylation, phosphatidylcholine is another way to go. The enzyme PEMT or PEMT makes PC, and this is what was referred to as the back door into methylation. PC makes trimethylglycine, which is a methyl donor. That's how that works. Now, variants in PEMT are very common, and they're often seen together with MTHFR variants. So, your front door may be closed and your back door may be closed, which may be causing you a lot of problems. So about a third of us do not make choline well. We need to get it from our diet. And that's not trivial. I mean, we're talking fish, dairy, meat, eggs. PEMT allows us to produce choline in the absence of food sources. So why might you need to supplement with phosphatidylcholine? First, if you have known variants in PEMT, if you know your DNA and you know you have them, it's probably a good idea. If you're having difficulty taking methylfolate, and if you have gallbladder issues or fatty liver or excess lipids in the blood, PC is in all cell membranes, and it's especially important for the transport of biles and lipids from the liver. And it's especially important in pregnancy. The baby will use up the mom's PC for its own brain and often put the mother into having liver conditions. I like to get my PC from Body Bio. It's a fat. It looks like molasses. Yeah, you don't want to really be taking the salt. You want this to be absorbed properly, and you want to get the right dose. This particular formulation has other phospholipids as well, like phosphatidylserine. So just be aware. You may only want the PC and work up to 1 teaspoon a day. Just start with it on the tip of the tongue, the tiniest amount. I would wait until I was okay with methylation before I tried this, because this, again, is the back door. It's going to add on to your methylation. Or if you're having trouble, you can go to this approach. Remember, both methylfolate and phosphatidylcholine are supplying methyl groups in just different ways. And I have this diagram over here where the PEMT is making this gene, okay, makes phosphatidylcholine. That goes into cell membranes, but it can also go right into choline. It's that diet can also bring you the choline, and this can make trimethylglycine, which is a methyl donor. PEMT is, like I said, the back door. What is needed for additional nitric oxide synthase support? Once you are okay with the methyls and the B12, with or without the phosphatidylcholine, you can begin other vitamins. First, vitamin C. You know you need a couple grams a day in divided doses. That's really important. It helps all your antioxidants work. It's an antioxidant in itself, but it helps other antioxidants like glutathione work properly. Second, vitamin B2. It comes in 2 different forms. The thing about vitamin B2 is it may not be easy to take. As a cofactor, it can give you depletion symptoms. So you have to start very low and slow. You want to work up to 400 milligrams total in a day in divided doses. And when you're fine, you can just take it once a day. Until you can get to this dose, you're going to have to start out really low. Just make sure, because it can provoke symptoms, because it can provoke that uncoupling of the nitric oxide synthase if you haven't seen it for a long time. So you have to be very careful about it. The third thing you need then is vitamin B6, and you need it in this form, P5P, pyridoxal 5' phosphate. This is the hardest one of these vitamins to take. And again, too, it can give you depletion symptoms, and you want to work up to 100 milligrams total per day in divided doses. I want to remind you or inform you that B vitamins have now been integrated into migraine therapy along with magnesium. And why is that again? Because of the squeezing of the cerebral blood vessels. You can check your levels of these vitamins on the Nutrival. It's a very good test for checking that. One thing I do want to note is if you cannot take B2 easily, start with B3, which is niacinamide, is the non-flesh kind, niacinamide. But again, this can also cause depletion. So make sure your methylation is good first. Then start with B. If you can't take the B2 or have trouble with B2, start with B3, then go to the B2 and then the B6. Niacinamide you can get in a 25 milligram lozenge, for example, if you're wary about how to take it. You can also get it once you're doing well with it in a 500 milligram sustained release capsule. So those are all important if you're having trouble. Now, with respect to antioxidants, again, antioxidants mop up the free radicals. They eliminate pain, spasm, fatigue. They may be cofactors to nitric oxide synthase or just plain damage control to stop triggering those mast cells. So glutathione is a cofactor for nitric oxide synthase, and it comes in liquids, lozenges, capsules, all kinds of ways to take glutathione. Seeking Health has an optimal liposomal glutathione in drops, and that may be a good way to kind of start with it. But there's a new formulation. It's called S-acetyl glutathione, and it comes in lozenges and capsules. I love this one from Seeking Health. They're 25 milligrams. It comes with the selenium and molybdenum as cofactors for the glutathione. So if you end up taking a lot of it, you're not, bottoming out. on these. Acetylglutathione is extremely easily absorbed, not like the liposomal glutathione or just regular glutathione. And you can now get it in very high doses. I think this is a game changer. It can be problematic because it is a cofactor. It can potentially trigger the nitric oxide synthase to uncouple, and it could potentially use up other cofactors. So just be careful of it. And if you find that you can take it, you can use pretty much, you can use quite a bit of it. Start out with extremely small doses. Do not let your first experience with this be IV. Do not do that. Just work with it with extremely small doses until you are used to it. Another real key antioxidant that people use is called PQQ, pyrroloquinone quinone. It's kind of like a first line of defense. Used to carry a lot of these in my pocket, 20 milligrams. Some people take it every day, but you don't really notice any difference if you take it every day, especially at this dosage. I like to use it as a rescue. And what I mean by that is when I have a symptom. So if I have a gut spasm, I'll take a methylfolate, I'll take an Altoid, I'll take a PQQ or glutathione, and I usually have immediate effect. All those are absorbed in the mouth immediately. People do the same thing for a shortness of breath episode or for arrhythmias. The PQQ just mops up those free radicals right away. And again, if you have a response to the PQQ, you are talking about having oxidative stress. You're mopping up the free radicals. So you know you have oxidative stress. Now, all of these I have used and found to be helpful. This is a list of antioxidants, and some have anti-inflammatory properties as well. This is a list of those that I have found to be useful. I, for a long time, used curcumin with natural factors, theracurmin, up to 4 capsules a day. There's a lot of literature on this. Lutein is part of the AREDS formula for the eyes. Lipoic acid is specifically for the mitochondria. This is one thing that I've certainly noticed can cause depletion. So, and I've read about it as well. Again, it has to be methylated to work. So you have to make sure that, some of these one that I'm marking in this way, I mean that, make sure you've done the other things first. Try to get that nitric oxide support going before you do this. CoQ10 can also cause depletion. Grapeseed extract. Sulforaphane is, again, like curcumin. I got a lot of literature behind it. I like it in I take Brock. Initially, when I had to start, I needed digestive enzymes to start with because it can cause a lot of nausea. It was very hard to take initially. So make sure you've got those enzymes on board. If you're having any kind of trouble, it can also cause depletion. So make sure you're methylating well, for example. The new vitamin E, tocotrienols from Adapt Naturals. This is a great antioxidant. You should not take it with the regular vitamin E. So if you've got a multivitamin that has regular vitamin E in it, you don't want to take that together with a vitamin E. They'll block receptors. Be careful with that. But it's really worth doing. And then the new kid on the block, molecular hydrogen. I'm just going to show you my little hydrogen bottle here, making hydrogen water. I love it. I first check out the Molecular Hydrogen Institute. They've got a lot of information there, and H2 Hub, H2 HUBB has a lot of information on the type of water bottle and making sure you get enough of the dose of it. But it has really helped my eyes. My eye pain has really diminished with the hydrogen water and gut spasms as well. So I highly recommend it. The other component is what you can refer to as a mast cell stabilizer. A lot of people start with these initially because this is what is causing the problem. This is the most painful symptoms. Of course, steroids can help the mast cells from, opening, but that's not something you really want to be dealing with a lot. I use ketotifen. You probably recognize this from an eye drop called Zatador. It's the only thing I've seen in the US with ketotifen. Otherwise, the rest of it has been in Europe. You can get it compounded at 2 milligrams 3 times a day. That's what I take. Although that much is a big dose and can make you very sleepy. It's much, much better than just using H1 or H2 blockers. It's a mast cell stabilizer. So what it's, again, what it's doing is it's keeping the mast cell from spilling its inflammatory compounds instead of going after each of the inflammatory compounds it might spill, because the mast cell has a couple hundred different inflammatory compounds that it can go after. Histamine is one of them, but you really would rather stabilize the mast cell than go after the individual component. Luteolin I use in the formulation from called Neuroprotect. It's again too a mast cell stabilizer. It has some antihistamine properties. 2 capsules 3 times per day. They give this to a lot of autistic children. It's you want to check that first week. You want to be sure just taking one at a time, just to make sure how you react to it. It has been reported to have some brain irritability, but generally it's considered very, very easily tolerated. I also take Elmeron for interstitial cystitis. And one thing that you should know about, especially if you're in really dire straits, is low-dose imatinib. This is generally a cancer drug. It's a tyrosine kinase inhibitor, and it's extremely expensive. But that's its function, is to stop the mast cells from releasing its contents. And then there's mitochondrial dysfunction, where you may have fatigue, brain fog, nighttime hunger. These are common symptoms of not having that energy. And a very common treatment in chronic fatigue is acetyl-L-carnitine, 500 milligrams, up to 4 times a day. That's 2 grams a day. Some people even use more than that, but it's very effective too. What it does is that carnitine delivers fat to the mitochondria. So it goes out and brings fat into the mitochondria. So for example, I used to wake up at 3 in the morning, just starving all the time. And it's interesting because both my sister and I discovered this simultaneously, was that the thing that we needed at that time was if I ate some roast beef, I would immediately feel better and be able to go back to sleep. And the thing is that roast beef has carnitine, and later discovered that. Arlipoic acid and CoQ10 also help with the mitochondrial dysfunction. And one other thing I've done is sometimes I've woken myself up deliberately in the middle of the night just to take something. Now, lastly, and I think this is, this one is very tricky, green tea to make BH4. So once you've gotten all that other stuff away, I would not try the green tea until you're able to tolerate those other things. It's the EGCG in green tea that helps your body make BH4. You can't just supplement BH4. That you can do with Kuvan if you can get it, okay? There is a Kuvan supplement, by the way, and ecological formulas. But it's only in 1 milligram capsules. You can get it now, but I've not found it to be that useful because it's just not enough. So if you feel like you're getting your symptoms under control, you can start out with Trader Joe's decaffeinated green tea, make a very weak cup and take a spoonful of that. If you have an immediate reaction, you are not ready. Just go back and work on the above. So just work up to 1 cup a day. You can take a sip every couple of hours. When you can drink a strong cup of the Trader Joe's green tea a couple times a day, then you can get Pure Encapsulations decaffeinated green tea capsules. And 1 cup will now exchange for about 1 capsule. Try to switch over to the capsules just to get an idea of how much you need. And if you want to keep doing cups, that's fine. I would take 2 capsules 4 times a day. That's max dose. You certainly don't want to do that right away. You start off extremely slowly. You watch your liver function test. Green tea is tricky. Some things don't get absorbed well when you take green tea. So be very careful. And back off if you start to lose control immediately. Assume the green tea is the bad actor if you start getting symptoms. Delayed symptoms from too much green tea are gas, bloating, or triggering of your main symptoms. Back off by at least half and start again if you start to get green tea symptoms, Only when you can take the target green tea. I'd like to see you get to at least a couple capsules 3 times a day. Then you can add on the nitrates like beet powder, or what I like to use here is Neo 40 from Human N. These beet tablets here, you can start with 1/8 or 1/4 of the tablet and give yourself time to adjust. Again, if you're having problems, if it's pushing you too hard, it could be uncoupling. These tablets have a little arginine in them. Dr. Bryan makes these, but he says that really the arginine is not the rate limiting factor on the nitric oxide synthase reaction. So even though a lot of athletes will swear by arginine, really what you need are all these other things I've been talking about. Now, once you've got the green tea down, then that is the time to begin to add foods with nitrates. Beets, arugula, chard, bok choy. Be careful with oxalates. So you just got to be careful for osteoporosis in that sense. So in summary, I hope that you now understand that what you are experiencing is real and that there are ways to manage your symptoms. I've wanted to give you a framework for thinking about how to treat symptoms of oxidative stress. And you do that by supporting nitric oxide synthase through inflammation prevention and through mitochondrial support. We've tried to provide the tools in the toolbox and show you how we are using them. So I hope that you can learn to describe your symptoms within this framework and the treatments that may work. Work slowly and methodically, always thinking safety first. Let your body tell you what is and isn't working. This is not a 5-day cure. Hopefully, some of you will share your experiences and help move awareness forward. What does oxidative stress feel like to you? How can it best be managed? Please use the comments section to share the approaches you take and how you do.